My friends, something doesn't add up in the Iran rescue operation. Check this out. We were told not one but two C-130s got stuck in sand. How is that even possible? That's literally their job, to operate in any type of terrain. For example, in this video, you can see a C-130 landing in the middle of the desert. And here, an Indian C-130J landing on an unpaved runway in the Himalayas. And the C-130s used during the rescue operation are not the standard type. We're talking about MC-130J Commando 2s, specialized in clandestine operations, meaning they can plow through dirt, mud, snow, gravel, whatever. Not only that, we were told these aircraft were stuck in sand when the Pentagon insisted on the fact that they landed on an old airstrip. So which one is it? Something is seriously wrong with this story. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. Why would you even need big bulky C-130s for a stealth personal recovery mission? It doesn't even make sense. It's been a week now, why haven't we seen the pictures of the airmen that were rescued in this heroic mission? Why do you need hundreds of special forces for a rescue mission that should be as discreet as possible? So many questions. You know this video important when I get a fresh cut before recording. And the story by the CIA of the ghost murmur device. Scientists are saying it's bullshit. So in this video we'll try to find out what else is bullshit in this story.
All bullshit! All of it!
And check this out. And I mean, the entire operation took place conveniently close to the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center. Was the pilot rescue actually a cover-up? Was this actually a failed covert mission to seize uranium from Iran?
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Look, I know I can be critical. With that in mind, this was one of the most audacious US combat search and rescue missions of the war. An operation that demanded immense courage and precise coordination. No other country could have achieved an operation of that scale so deep inside enemy territory. Most other countries would have said, GG, well played for the pilot. It also marked the first confirmed American ground operation of the 2026 Iran war. But before we start, a quick word from today's sponsor. You know, when I'm doing research as a creator, I often have to talk with combat veterans or people that are specialized in certain topics. But when I'm having these meetings, it's difficult to stay engaged in the conversation while taking notes at the same time. It becomes hard to keep track of everything that was said. These experts jump from one topic to another. Sometimes people interrupt each other. And in the end, it doesn't take long for my notes to become very messy. And then I would waste way too much time trying to piece everything back together. Then I started using Plaud Note Pro, the sponsor of today's video. Plaud is my note-taking assistant. You only have to press this button, put it on the table, and it will turn all of your meetings into clean, actionable, and shareable notes with zero effort. This is beautiful because it can record conversations from up to 16 feet or 5 meters. Now the real value of the Plaud Note Pro is what happens after. It transcribes everything, shows who said what, and when you go on the app, it provides you with a helpful summary as well as the main talking points. It just makes meetings so much easier. I can even ask Plaud questions about past recordings or use it to draft follow-ups based on what was discussed. A note-taking assistant. Now, I know what you will say. Why not use your phone? Technologically, this thing is impressive because the battery can run up to 50 hours. Just to put things into perspective, that's about 50 meetings. That's why in the past months, I only had to recharge it once. And if you're someone that needs to record things on the move, you can use the Plaud Note Pin S, which, as you can see, can be worn as a pin or even on your wrist. For example, I like to use it like this because I like to go for walks and brainstorm ideas for future videos at the same time. Plaud also meets global privacy standards, which is obviously extremely important for any tool I'm using to record sensitive information. Everything is protected with enterprise-level security. It's honestly one of those tools that saves me a lot of time. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on screen. Once again, thank you to Plaud for sponsoring this video. First things first. Now the Iranians claim they knew about the operation and that it was a big ambush. They even released this AI-generated video to showcase what happened, according to them. Look, I don't think so. If that was the case, and if that was actually a prepared ambush site, then the Iranians suck. All you need is to place a couple mines on the runway, have guys with manpads and machine guns all around the valley, hidden FPV drone operators, and they could have turned the entire rescue mission into a train wreck. It would have been worse than what happened in Mogadishu with Black Hawk Down. Let's be honest, the Iranians are coping big time. Actually, some Iranian analysts have focused on what the operation reveals about Iran's defenses. The fact that large transport aircrafts and accompanying helicopters were able to penetrate deep into Iranian territory raises concerns about gaps in airspace security. And now the Iranian command fears that the Americans can just do it again but on a bigger scale. Anyway, to fully understand what happened, I suggest we start from the beginning. It all started on the 3rd of April when the IRGC released this footage of a US fighter jet being shot down over Iran. Locals found the crash site and was soon confirmed to be an F-15E Strike Eagle, call sign Dude 44, from the 494th Fighter Squadron based at RAF Base Lakenheath. So we know for a fact that an F-15 was shot down. In the video we can also see the two airmen eject from the aircraft. Meanwhile, Iranian state media released photos of the wreckage, including an ejection seat. By that time, the F-15's pilot and the weapons system officer were both at large. The US Air Force immediately launched a rescue operation. As you can understand, the capture of any of these two airmen would have been a political embarrassment for the US government. Around the same time, an HC-130J Combat King II and two HH-60G Pavehawks specialized in combat search and rescue operations were spotted in Korguli and Boyaramad province, near the town of Behbahan. In this video, we can clearly see the HC-130J refueling the helicopters, and that's where this video of the refueling was geolocated near Zaras. Naturally, because of that, it was believed that the F-15E crashed in this area. And that's what I reported in my last video, because that was all the information we had available at that time. So, for the purists, what we just saw were not HH-60G Pavehawks, but the modernized version meant to replace it, the 60W Jolly Green. That's when CBS announced that the pilot had been recovered. More specifically, the plane's pilot was in constant communication with his unit and rescued about 6 hours later by a force. But the helicopter that went to rescue him was targeted by small arms fire. TWZ reported, after picking up the F-15E pilot, the HH-60W Jolly Green was engaged by every single person in Iran who had a small arms weapon, and one of the aircraft took several hits. And that means that Dude 44 Alpha, the pilot, was rescued in broad daylight. After the operation, some people on Twitter geolocated this picture showing the F-15E's debris. We can see the image, and this is the same spot on the 3D map. This location was also confirmed with the Sentinel-2 satellite imagery with this car on the landscape, because we know the US Air Force bombed the F-15E's crash site. Now, instead of being geolocated in southwestern Iran, as was originally believed, the wreckage was geolocated only 25 kilometers south of Isfahan. It's a major urban area. The distance between the two spots is 240 kilometers. All I can say when I look at the map is that the pilot was very lucky to have ejected in this area where there's nobody. A couple hundred meters to the north, and he would have been GG well played. The closest settlement is 2.5 kilometers away from the wreckage, and there's also this big highway in close proximity. But that's not all. Ironically, there's also a prison only 1,500 meters away from the crash site. Imagine if he had ejected and fell right inside the prison.
Another fuck up. Another fuck up.
Now, jokes aside, my question is, how come the farmers and shepherds from the Zagros Mountains were able to take multiple videos of Combat King 2s and Black Hawk helicopters, but not a single soul near Isfahan? Nobody from the 2 million inhabitants managed to record helicopters or US aircraft circling over this area. It's a real mystery. The only explanation is that the exfiltration for the pilot, Dude 44 Alpha, took place at night. The rescue team aboard helicopters went in and out. End of story. And this is how it should be done. And it's probably while covering the exfiltration of the pilot that the A-10 Warthog was shot down by Iranian air defense. But maybe we do have footage. Remember that video of Iranian police officers firing small arms at one of the helicopters? No, actually, we see the two helicopters. Well, we can see in the footage that it was near an electric line. And right here on the map, near the prison, there is indeed an electric line. My bad, in English it's called power line. The only difference is that there's a lot of greenery in the video, but on the 3D map it looks very arid south of Isfahan. Now it could simply be because of the difference in seasons. But now there's this guy on Twitter called Druid Wizard, and he geolocated the police video near Shoram, in southwest Iran. It's only 50 kilometers away from all the US aircraft were spotted. And to be honest, the area looks much more like what we see in the video. There are a lot of fields, a lot of greenery. We can spot the power line going through the middle of the fields. And there's the same mountain in the background. And according to the angle of the video, the two helicopters were flying south, back to base. That's not all, clashes were also reported in Dehtasht. Here it looks like flares, and the town of Dehtasht is geolocated right here on the map. So we have 4 geolocations of US aircraft in southwest Iran, none near Isfahan, apart from the crash site. I see 2 options. Option 1, the F-15 was indeed shut down near Isfahan. That's what the evidence shows. And it was shut down at nighttime. A very important detail. The exfiltration must have taken place in the early hours of the day. Meanwhile, southwest Iran must have been the area where US aircraft refueled and transited back and forth from Isfahan. And you know what, perhaps that's the video of the exfiltration team with the pilot inside coming back from Isfahan being fired at by small arms. So what people recorded in southwest Iran must have been the end of the operation. That could explain why we have 0 footage near Isfahan and all the footage in the mountains. The New York Post also mentioned the Bakhtiari tribesmen looking for the pilot. That's probably the CIA diversion operation, because the territory of the Bakhtiari people is very far from Isfahan, and closer to where the aircraft had been sighted in the Zagros Mountains. Option 2, there were actually 2 aircraft that were shot down, one south of Isfahan and one in the southwest. And this one was kept hush-hush. That could explain why one rescue mission was swift, but the other one took more work. But then again, where's the crash site for the second aircraft? Up until now, it can make sense, but that's when things start to get shady. The weapons systems officer, Dude 44 Bravo, was still missing. That's when we're also told the weapons systems officer held the rank of colonel. How come the Wazzle is a colonel? And what was he doing in such a mission? Don't you find this strange? Now, according to what I've read, maybe it was actually a lieutenant colonel, an 05. And the media, they don't know the difference and they just said colonel. Maybe he wanted a promotion, who knows? But yeah, I still find it strange. Not only that, we were told that he managed to evade the Iranians for nearly 2 days by climbing the tall, narrow mountain, all while being injured with a sprained ankle. In a country he doesn't know. The New York Times wrote that about 14 hours after the fighter jet was hit, US officials got a lock on the weapons officer's location via a beacon he was carrying. What happened during these 14 hours? Some people claim he was unconscious after the ejection. Maybe. But I think it's possible the CIA had assets on the ground. Assets that retrieved and sheltered him during the day. And then at night, he took off for the mountains. But once again, it's speculation. That's when the US assembled a massive armada to save the missing airmen. Namely 155 aircraft, including 4 bombers, 64 fighters, 48 refueling tankers, 13 rescue aircraft, and more. That's the type of air power needed to suppress enemy air defense and to create a temporary air superiority bubble. But then it was mentioned that the rescue operation also included over 100 special forces operatives.
What are you doing here?
Trump even mentioned hundreds.
But I will tell you, the number, I'll keep it a secret, but it was hundreds.
I'm probably not the only one thinking that this is a totally inappropriate force package for the extraction of a single person from a remote area. Why couldn't the US just repeat the clandestine operation that retrieved Dude 44 Alpha? Why do they need 100 spec ops this time? Who knows, maybe it's because the info leaked in the media and they expected strong resistance from the Iranians. On one hand, it shows resolve and how the US military doesn't abandon anyone behind. Americans are very proud of this doctrine. When other militaries around the world think it's fatal to confuse tactical sentimentality with strategic logic. Also, like we've said at the beginning of the video, the capture of one of these airmen would have been a major PR victory for Iran. But still, that's a lot of resources to save one guy. At the same time, apparently he was a colonel. That's why I want to tell you the story about the rescue of Bat 21 Bravo. On April 2nd, 1972, during the Easter Offensive, 53-year-old navigator U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel ICL Gene Hambleton, callsign Bat 21 Bravo, was the sole survivor when his EB-66 was shot down by North Vietnamese SA-2 SAM. He stayed more than 11 days behind enemy lines, and this was the largest combat search and rescue operation of the entire Vietnam War. Over 100 fixed-wing aircraft, multiple OV-10 Broncos as forward air controllers, as well as multiple HH-53 Jolly Green Giant helicopters and even B-52 Strato Fortresses were involved in this operation to create a safe corridor to Bat 21 Bravo. However, this combat search and rescue operation was costly. 5 additional aircraft were destroyed, 11 Americans were KIA, and another 2 were captured to prevent one guy from being captured by the North Vietnamese. It was a heavy price to pay. But check this out. In the end, it's a small covert river operation led by a US Navy SEAL and a South Vietnamese commando that infiltrated enemy lines and rescued the navigator. 2 guys, that's what we call a clandestine mission. They didn't need 100 US Army Rangers. Anyway, let's go back to Iran. Fast forward to the following images. We can clearly see the crash site of multiple aircraft. Everything is burned down. And people were quick to compare it to the aftermath of Operation Eagle Claw. Analysts observed the wreckage of 2 C-130 Hercules transport aircraft and 4 MH-6 Little Birds. I mean, that's not unthinkable, because 2 MH-6 can be transported inside each C-130 in a folded configuration. Then they're rolled off via the rear ramp, after which the crews can unload, reassemble the helicopters, and have them flying in under 15 minutes. 2 C-130s, 4 MH-6 Little Birds. It makes sense. The math is mathing. Point number 2. The crash site was geolocated right here, approximately 50 kilometers south of Isfahan, along an old agricultural runway. The runway is 1,200 meters long, so it's more than enough for a C-130. But it's just so convenient. There's no settlement in a 10-kilometer radius, and this runway did not magically appear. US intelligence had already marked it for a long time. But why would they mark this runway? Well, once again, it's conveniently located only 40 kilometers away from the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center and Uranium Conversion Facility. It's literally on the other side of the mountain.
Well.
It's actually pretty crazy to think the Iranians didn't block this runway. Just a couple trucks would have been enough. So yeah, this shows incompetence in the Iranian command. Now, the official story is that Saturday morning, April 4th, US forces established a forward arming and refueling point, FARP, near this old runway. Expecting heavy resistance, 100 Special Forces operators were deployed to secure the perimeter. From there, MH-6 Little Birds took off to the exact location of the weapons systems officer and flew 12 kilometers all the way to that ridgeline. Meanwhile, US MQ-9 Reaper drones protected the crew member by striking Iranian military-aged males believed to be a threat who got within 3 kilometers of the airman. The US also bombarded the roads to prevent Iranian forces from approaching. I mean, look at the size of these craters. And there are only a couple roads leading to the runway, so it's very easy to block off. Then the Special Forces flew to that mountain, located and recovered the weapons systems officer. But once at the FARP, the MC-130J supposed to fly them out became compromised. They got stuck. Reuters reported their commanders made a high-risk decision ordering additional aircraft to fly into Iran to extract the group in waves. A decision that left the elite commandos waiting for a couple of tense hours. As you can see, the mission could have turned into a complete disaster. That's when they burned all the hardware and were exfiltrated by 3 de Havilland Dash 8s. That means the Dash 8s were probably not airborne at the time of the operation. They had to be flown in from Kuwait or Saudi Arabia to rescue the rescue team. But let's go back to what the Telegraph reported. The 2 C-130's nose gears got stuck in the dirt. Look, I find it very unlikely for MC-130J Super Herculeses specifically meant for this type of operation. The fact that it happens to one is already extremely unlikely, but 2 of them at the same time, nah. Also, how can they be suddenly stuck in sand? Weren't they on a runway? Wasn't this the entire purpose of the runway? Something is off. Also, before landing the C-130s, you drop commandos to check if the runway is suitable and that there are no obstacles. Now, I don't think the C-130s crash landed. What are the odds that the 2 of them crashed right beside one another? And from the images, it's clear that they were burned after, during the exfiltration. But if we take a look at these images, there are clear marks of bullets and air bursts on the C-130 Hercules. This means these transport aircraft were fired at by small arms. They had been detected, and there's even this footage of machine gun fire in the direction of a US helicopter, in a landscape that resembles pretty much where that entire rescue mission took place. This retired special operations officer said, "It is more likely that the aircraft took hits upon entry, and also likely took hits and damage while on the ground at the hasty FARP. That could explain why we have a picture of the 2 aircraft side by side. In this diagram, we can perceive the silhouette of the 2 planes. It's still a very strange positioning, especially for transport aircraft supposedly got stuck as they were about to take off. To me, it looks more like they're shielding each other from small arms. Look, I don't know, we'll know the full extent of the operation in 10, 20 years. It's also weird that people found random ID cards at the crash site, IDs of female maintenance crews. What were they doing there? In conclusion, it's been a week, and we still didn't get the pictures of the pilot and the weapon systems officer that were rescued. They're heroes, so it's very strange. Here's what I think. It's very likely that the US prepared and planned a special forces operation against the nuclear facility of Isfahan for some time now. It's something Trump talked about a lot. The location of the runway is just way too convenient. It's possible the US command pulled out this plan from the drawers and refurbished it to rescue the missing airman from the F-15. Otherwise, the main mission that weekend was a special forces infiltration to strike the Isfahan Nuclear Research Center. Personally, I don't think the objective was to extract uranium, because as you can imagine, it's very complicated. But the objective could have definitely been to detonate the uranium and the entire research facility, just blow everything up. That would have provided Trump with a victory and the political exit he was seeking from the war. And in this context, it's possible the F-15E Strike Eagle was flying to cover this operation. But it got shut down, and that's when things went south. The mission then shifted from an attack against the nuclear facility to rescuing the weapon systems officer. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. That's all I have for you today, and see you in the next one.